if I'm your coach, I don't want to be your friend. I want to be somebody you think, I'm not going to have a drink. I want to be somebody you fear of finding out.
But it is a strange decision to do a U-turn even before you've had a fight. Like normally, I mean, we've seen this before. We've seen people go back to their trainers, but normally it's you've gone to trainer B. It's not quite.
Dubois sacks Don Charles about 5 or 6 months ago, and then he signs with Tony Sims. Well, when I say recent, in the last 15 minutes, Daniel Dubois reunites with trainer Don Charles months after.
Boxing pros slam Daniel Dubois for reuniting with Don Charles. Dubois' decision to return to Don Charles has sent shockwaves through the boxing community. After the humbling loss to Usyk, he split with Charles, briefly joining Tony Sims in search of a fresh approach. Now, reuniting with his original trainer raises questions about stability, leadership, and who truly controls Dubois' career as he aims to rebuild his heavyweight legacy.
Is Daniel's dad got involved in any way, shape or form? Tony would say, no, I'm not playing that game. And Stanley knows his son, Daniel, so he'd have said he had to make a decision. I've either got to stay outside, which I can't, or step inside. So for him to go back to Don, it kind of, I love Don, but it kind of tells me that he's probably got more control over Don. Or how Don deals with his son.
Johnny Nelson questions Daniel Dubois' decision to reunite with Don Charles. Returning to Charles after the Usyk defeat and a brief partnership with Tony Sims has left the boxing world bewildered. Nelson points out that this move highlights Dubois' indecision and immaturity, making him appear inexperienced and easily influenced. At a stage when he should be rebuilding his career, Dubois risks repeating past mistakes instead of moving forward.
Now, this move back again, whose decision is that? Is that his, or is it his old man's decision? Again, it's not. His old man's taking a lot of stick, and his old man's new to the job in regards to us, in regards to the public. So, and I do feel for him, but sometimes you got to learn.
Ade Oladipo reflects on the fallout from Daniel Dubois' choices. Leaving Don Charles for Tony Sims clearly upset those around him, and Oladipo notes that Dom might have refused to take him back. Dubois' reputation as a big-name fighter doesn't excuse the indecision and lack of respect for his team. This back and forth between camps highlights a worrying pattern of instability in his career.
Bit I know Dom was hurt by Daniel leaving and going to Tony Sims. So much so that I thought Dom might say, no, you're not coming back. There's a part of me that was like, it wouldn't be too far-fetched or too crazy if Dom was like, no, it's okay. But obviously, look, Daniel's a big name. Dom wants to train the biggest names in boxing, so why would you not welcome?
Liam Goff reacts to Daniel Dubois' return to Don Charles. Going back to Charles has left many in the boxing world scratching their heads. Goff points out that Dubois, despite being a big-name fighter, often showed disrespect toward Charles, ignoring advice at weigh-ins and in the corner. This reunion raises questions about Dubois' attitude, maturity, and whether he truly values the guidance of those trying to shape his career.
He's now decided to go back to Don Charles. I mean, what is going on here? This is strange, and I don't want to sound harsh on Don Charles. I get it, Daniel Dubois is a big name, he generates a lot of money, but Don Charles was always, Daniel Dubois to me at times was almost disrespectful to Don Charles. When you saw them at weigh-ins and stuff like that, he never appeared to really take what Don Charles was saying seriously whenever it was, time to...
Counterpunch Boxing calls out Daniel Dubois' handling of setbacks. Observing fighters' losses, they argue that Dubois seems to deflect responsibility rather than learn from mistakes. Turning to excuses or saving face after the Usyk defeat reflects a lack of accountability. At this level, true champions confront failures, look in the mirror, and adjust. Dubois' pattern of shifting camps hints at deeper issues in discipline and decision-making.
And then they just, hey, you got to pay for it because I lost. I don't think that's cool at all, and in fact, I think that's a cop-out. That's just something to do to save face, to make yourself look good, because you're looking for an excuse why you didn't perform the best of your ability. You know, sometimes you gotta look in the mirror. You know, and I think and I hope that's what the case was in this situation. But I'm glad to hear news like
Chatty the Champ questions Daniel Dubois' return to Don Charles. After months apart, Dubois' decision to reunite with his old trainer has raised eyebrows. Critics suggest it shows indecision and instability, especially following the high-profile Usyk loss and his brief time with Tony Sims. At this stage of his career, such moves risk undermining confidence in his professionalism and ability to make consistent, mature choices.
Dubois has reverted back to his old coach, Don Charles. Now this was a shock to me, right? You know, it's very confusing. I don't know why he would go back to his old coach. His coach did well for him, of course, you know, won the IBF World Champion with Don Charles, but he left.
Dominic Ingley highlights the harsh realities of boxing careers, and Daniel Dubois' situation fits the pattern. Fighters often move between camps, using trainers for short-term gain before pointing fingers when things go wrong. Dubois' recent switch back to Don Charles after splitting with Tony Sims underscores this cycle, exposing tensions in his camp and raising concerns about his judgment and long-term focus in the heavyweight division.
It's very applicable to boxing. They choose you, fighters choose you. Then they use you to get where they need to be. Then they accuse you when everything goes wrong, and when they've left and gone somewhere else, then they start to abuse you by doing interviews, slagging you off. And that happens more times than it doesn't. You get
Duke McKenzie highlights the value Don Charles brings to Daniel Dubois' camp. Charles knows the fighter inside out, his habits, mindset, and how to get the best from him. McKenzie warns that parting ways now could be a disastrous decision, as Dubois risks losing the structure and motivation that helped him reach elite levels. At this stage, experience and consistency matter more than flashy new setups, and abandoning a proven coach could destabilize Dubois' career, especially after the Usyk loss and his brief stint with Tony Sims, raising serious questions about judgment and direction.
At this point, I think it's a bad move.
Johnny Nelson criticizes Dubois' apparent lack of discipline before big fights. Throwing a party instead of focusing on preparation shows a shocking disrespect to Don Charles, whose role is to guide Dubois to the top. Nelson calls this behavior foolish, even bordering on street mentality, which has no place in world-class boxing. Such actions risk undermining team trust and focus, highlighting Dubois' tendency to make impulsive choices rather than respecting the process needed to succeed at the highest level.
Now if my man's putting a party on and saying, we ain't fighting unless all the crew come in, on fight night, he's an idiot. I don't know him personally, so I can't, but what I'm seeing is foolishness. How can you be so stupid? That's street mentality. This is world-class boxing.
Carl Froch emphasizes the danger of Dubois' pre-fight mindset. Froch points out that boxing is brutal, life and death territory in the ring, not a social scene. By being in party mode, Dubois shows a lack of seriousness for the sport's risks. Froch frames boxing as a warrior's domain, where preparation, focus, and mental readiness are everything. Dubois' casual approach undermines his potential, highlighting that success requires more than talent. It demands discipline, respect for the craft, and understanding the stakes before stepping into battle.
As you're not in party mode, you're in fight mode. You're in, I could be walking to a certain death mode here. This is the hurt game. This is a dangerous, hard sport where people get seriously injured in there. And when you're fighting, you want to be in the mode of fight zone, fight mode. Let's go, I'm going to battle, I'm going to war, I'm a fucking warrior. I'm going in there to do some damage and potentially getting some damage done to me.
Daniel Dubois projects confidence in his comeback and eagerness for 2026 matchups. While he expresses readiness to fight anyone, including Tyson Fury, his words contrast sharply with the criticism surrounding his preparation and camp choices. Dubois' determination is clear, but experts warn that mentality alone won't fix repeated indecision with coaches. To rebuild his reputation, he must combine his hunger with structured guidance and discipline, or risk facing setbacks even against opponents he believes he can handle.
Yeah, bring it on, I can't wait. If if Frank makes that fight, then I'll be delighted. I'll jump at the opportunity. But yeah, whoever steps up, I'm ready. Can't wait to have our first fight 2026, man.
Tony Sims emphasizes Daniel Dubois' hunger and readiness to return. Dubois is laser focused on fight day, constantly talking about getting back in the ring. Sims paints a picture of a fighter eager to rebuild and make his mark among the heavyweight elite. While Dubois' energy and determination are undeniable, critics point out that excitement alone isn't enough. After splitting from Don Charles, briefly joining Tony Sims, and now returning to Charles, questions about discipline and decision-making linger. The heavyweight division is stacked, and missteps can be costly. Sims' remarks underscore that Dubois must channel his drive strategically, combining his raw ambition with focus, structure, and professional guidance if he wants to reclaim credibility and climb back toward world-class contention.
Like you said, he just wants a fight day. He's raring to go. It's all he talks about now. I want to get a fight day, get in the ring. It's going to be an exciting period for all the heavyweights now. I'm expecting to see a lot of the top heavyweights all fight each other.
Harlem Eubank praises Dubois' fearless mentality. According to Eubank, Dubois approaches challenges with unwavering belief, unafraid of anything in front of him. This fearlessness can serve as a strong foundation, but it must be tempered with discipline and smart camp decisions. After the Usyk defeat, Dubois' back and forth between trainers highlights a worrying inconsistency. Eubank's point is clear. While belief is critical, maintaining focus, respect for coaching, and structured preparation are essential for translating courage into results at the elite heavyweight level. Without this balance, raw confidence risks being overshadowed by tactical errors, missed opportunities, and the perception that Dubois hasn't matured into a fully professional fighter ready for top-tier competition.
I think Daniel, he's the type of fighter, he's got that belief, he's not scared of anything that's in front of him, and that is something that will hold you in good stead going into it.
Simon Jordan weighs in on a potential Fury versus Dubois matchup. Comparing Dubois to Anthony Joshua, Jordan highlights how quickly fighters can be exposed at the elite level. He notes that Joshua, despite past successes, has vulnerabilities that opponents exploit, and a similar scenario could unfold for Dubois if he isn't fully prepared. This analysis underscores the importance of not only physical skill, but also mental readiness, strategic coaching, and experience. Dubois' recent camp changes, from splitting with Don Charles to briefly joining Tony Sims and now returning to Charles, further complicate matters. Jordan's commentary warns that any fight against top heavyweights like Fury will punish indecision, making consistent preparation and professional guidance crucial for Dubois' next chapter.
Been in the camp for a year and a half that AJ's done, and said that as soon as someone lands one on him, he's going to have a problem. And you wouldn't have it, no one else would have it, and you used Jermaine Franklin, you used Robert Helenius, you used Otto Wallin, and you used Francis Ngannou. And I said to you, as much as I like Anthony Joshua, I think he's been a superstar for himself in certain aspects of the sport. If he gets a live one in there, I think he's going to get knocked out, which is what happened. So I don't want to see what happened to Deontay Wilder happening to Anthony Joshua.
Johnny Nelson discusses Dubois' upcoming fight mindset. Nelson predicts an intense battle where Dubois and his opponent have no personal animosity, but will bring maximum effort. He notes that Dubois is responsive and coachable, but his history of switching camps, from Charles to Sims and back, adds uncertainty. Nelson suggests the fight may end before the distance, reflecting Dubois' aggressive style. Yet, he emphasizes that the outcome will depend not only on talent, but also on discipline, strategic preparation, and mental focus, areas where Dubois' previous indecisions have cast doubt. Fans can expect a high-stakes clash, but success will hinge on whether Dubois has finally stabilized his camp and approach.
As long as he has to be to his opponent, and Daniel Dubois will say what someone's whispering in his ear. But these two guys, ain't no hate, don't bad blood there, but it'll be a good fight. I don't think it'll go the distance, and I'm looking forward to it.
Derek Chisora critiques Dubois' approach following the Usyk loss. He argues that Dubois and his team focused on the wrong details, overanalyzing instead of maintaining a killer mindset. Chisora stresses that elite fighters surround themselves with killers and train like killers, holding nothing back. Dubois' indecision with trainers splitting from Don Charles, briefly working with Tony Sims, and now reuniting with Charles mirrors the lack of consistency Chisora highlights. For Dubois to succeed against top heavyweights like Tyson Fury, he must adopt a disciplined, focused, and relentless approach, combining raw aggression with smart preparation, respect for coaching, and mental toughness, rather than relying on reactive or inconsistent strategies.
They were going off the scale of body show, you're a liar and all this for no reason. And what happened now?
Daniel Dubois' decisions, from splitting with Don Charles after the Usyk loss, briefly joining Tony Sims, and now returning to Charles, have dominated headlines and divided opinions. Experts question his discipline, focus, and long-term strategy, yet his talent and hunger remain undeniable. This upcoming phase will reveal whether Dubois can finally combine skill with structure to reclaim his status among the heavyweights. Fans, now it's your turn. Do you think Dubois will thrive under Don Charles again, or is this a step backward? Drop your thoughts in the comments and join the debate.